Some of these younger guys, like the Calicina and some of those people, Bill Larson's daughters, when they married, we took in the husbands on the softball team. Claire,
that's how
your scouts were the hot women.
Yeah, right.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, when I first started, Claire Heisenrader was the minister there. He's the one that married us, and he was our pitcher, originally. And we came up with Ed Johnson later.
He pitched very well.
Yeah,
these guys, but they did it in different ways. Dewey was just plain forthright. I'm your recruit. Oh,
Are we?
are we on? Does it look like? Is there anything going on there?
Ed, are we on?
We're rolling.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, then you got a lot of good stuff then. My gosh. So Jack, you're from Indiana originally. Who's
I
your,
was born in White County, Indiana. It's west of Indianapolis.
what'd your mom and dad do?
My mother was from Bloomington, pardon me, and my dad was a furniture worker. He played a lot of baseball, threw several no-hitters and this kind of thing. And the Indians tried to sign him at one time, but he was he was working in a factory, woodworking, and he pitched with them twice a week. And then on a weekend, he pitched with another team in a different league, and they paid him a salary like he was an employee of the factory to pitch on the weekend. So when they tried to sign him for pro ball, he said, "I'm making more money now than what you want to give me." So he did not go in professional, but
So
but he
early
was-
on, sports was part of your world.
Yeah. He and that when I was so little, he was gone. A lot of the time. But we moved to Louisville, Kentucky, when I was 3 years old, and lived there for 6 years. And pardon me, when my brother passed away, he was 2 years older. He had a birth defect, and when he passed away, he was 11, and a family moved up to Celeron. And my dad came with a bunch of guys and worked for Sterling Furniture, and that's how we ended up in this area. But yeah.
Did you go to Lakewood School, or what did you go?
No, we went to
Do you want some water?
Celeron.
Did you just
I went to Celeron in like 4th grade, 5th, almost all of 5th, and I had to laugh because when we came up, pardon me, because I was from Kentucky, they wanted to put me back a grade. I think I was in 4th grade, and my mother said, "No, you give them a test or whatever you have to do, but you're not putting them back unless you have to." So apparently I passed the test and stayed in 4th grade, but.
Well, they were profiling you because you were from Kentucky.
Yeah, well, those rebels down there.
So then did you move into the city after that, or did you just go?
Yeah, actually, it was only a little over 2 years. My parents got divorced, and my younger sister and I ended up going to GA home.
Huh?
And my older sister, she was only 15, she got married so that she wouldn't have to go there. And but we were only there like a year and a half, and I didn't consider it a bad experience.
Right.
It was. I told somebody, I said it was one of the first times I ever had 3 meals in one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was like I say, a short period of time, and then my mother took us out because she had a disagreement with the superintendent, and that was I think I was halfway through 6th grade, I think, and then we lived around town here and there, everywhere, through high school, and the Hannon family, Leo and Helen Hannon, Jim Hannon, Dave Hannon's folks, they let me come and live with them because my mother was living in Ellington with my sister. And thank you. Jim Sharp said I had to pay tuition if I didn't move into town. So they let me live with them so that I could be in town.
Right.
And I lived with them 2.5 years until we got married. You know, so it was like a real family there. You know.
You had success in sports almost immediately. I mean, it wasn't like you had to. I mean, I watched the video that is on the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame site that was done at the hot stove luncheon like 20 years ago.
Oh, uh-huh.
And you told the story about 12 years old playing baseball.
Yes.
And you were pretty good then. I mean, did you feel that your dad and your mom's DNA kind of got you set up in sports right away?
Yeah, whatever. You know, I had the opportunity to play in some sandlot type ball, and excuse me. When I was 12, Russ Dietrich was managing a Class D League team in the city, and he promised me a spot, and somehow we didn't. You know, I think it was still at the home, and maybe just out of the home, and we didn't make contact anyway. So when I was 12, I played in the Class C League, which was 13 to 15-year-olds, and I played with Ronnie Seastead from the home, and with Curtis Machine was the team. And one day we were playing up to Washington, and a fella slid into me at third base, and I had felt a little kink in my knee. And an inning or so later, I hit one into left center, and was going into second base, standing up. And when I came down on my right foot, the next one was going to be on the bag, standing up. I heard a loud snap, you know. And that's, when I got this, when I was 12 years old. And when I went to pro ball, the head scout with the Cardinals, he picked that up. He said, "What's the matter with your leg?" And I said, "Nothing." He said, "Don't tell me that." He said, you run with a trace of a limp." I said, "Really?" Nobody had ever told me that. So I told him, what happened. And so when I finally got released, the manager told me, he said, I got to release you. And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, they're not willing to take a chance on your leg holding up to make the major leagues." So, and they didn't give me any bonus or anything. So he said, "I have to release you." And I said, "Geez, aren't I hitting good enough?" And he said, "You're the best hitter I got." He said, "But they're not willing to take that chance." So, I got released and came home with my tail between my legs.
Well, let's talk just briefly about that, because
Sure.
Who actually saw you to sign you?
Johnny Newman got me the contract. He was what they call a bird dog scout. He got bonuses if people that he recommended got signed, and but Johnny got me the contract with the Cardinals in the spring of '56. I went down spring training, and that after I got released that year, I came home and played in the Muni League, and won a batting championship. I had 490 something or whatever, But we played in that league, I think, until like 1959 or 60 in that area.
There's a huge article in your file.
Oh.
Fulford, Wybernack capture Muni AA hit pitch crowns. They talk about you. Great length. You can have this if you don't have this.
Yeah, my wife has a couple of
books.
scrapbooks.
Yeah, you 491.
That what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, modestly 491. Tommy Hurst was 458, and then Bobby Bastion after that. So guys who we've all kind of had interviews with.
Right.
But they all talk about a certain home run that you had, and you want to talk about that somehow? Included in Fulford's array of 28 hits, which gave him an average of 491, was the much talked of home run he belted over Municipal Stadium center field fence.
Chuck Diltz was pitching with, I can't remember the sponsor, but he was pitching one night, and they'd given us a pretty good game, and I think it was fairly late in the game, and we needed to score a run or two to go ahead, and so he threw, and I think it was a fastball, but we had a couple of guys on, and I said, well, got to get a hit, got to get a hit. So I hit a line drive, and Chuck ducked, like that. He ducked it as it was going over his head. And I rounded first, and I look up, and the guy's looking over the center field fence. I think it was a 408 or something like that in center field.
Did you use a 3-iron for that?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was one of those ones. And like anything, you swing and meet it, and it goes. I mean, like these guys driving the golf ball today, and just looking for a single and got more.
That's a long way out there.
Yeah.
Was baseball, I know you've done so well in so many sports, but was that your sport?
Yes, yeah. I played, like I say, played baseball from the time I was, 12, and even when I was younger in Kentucky, we used to play out behind a Philip Morris tobacco plant in their loading dock area, the cement area, and be late for dinner.
Who was your biggest baseball influence then, Jack? I mean, who would have really turned you on to that sport?
I think just being with the people your age, playing, locally, like we used to go up to Lincoln and play by the hours, just three of us, one pitching, one hitting, and one shagging balls. And, you don't see that too much anymore. But, no parents, no adults involved, just you go up and by the hour, just go up and hit and field, get your exercise.
Who were the other two guys? Were they regulars, or did it alternate?
Oh, I remember Brian Moynihan and Joe Agnello was an older fellow there, and Ronnie Stroth played with us. He was a couple years older. Bruce Bullock was a teammate and same age. We graduated together. Bob Eklund, George Parsons, those guys, every once in a while would chip in. But, as soon as we got the third guy, we were gone. We were up there. So.
During your junior high school, I'm just looking at names of your coaches, and it's sort of the who's who of those who did it well, and guys that I was just so young, but I stumbled onto them. I'm going to give you some names. Maybe you can give me a vignette or a story or something. Harold Rubens.
Harold, he was our line coach for the JV football team, and he used to lead calisthenics. And he was like a rock. I mean, he never asked you to do anything he couldn't do better. He was very good at conditioning, and he was. When I got the job with the rec department later, he'd come in the office quite often, and for different things. I think he was always a little bit upset that he never got appointed or whatever to the Hall of Fame. I think he felt he was qualified, but it takes that person who will do all the background work and submit the information, and luckily I had my wife, So.
Well, I can remember just Harold personally. He was at Jefferson Junior High. I'm not sure if he must have been a coach or teaching athletics, but he had us go through military drills.
Oh yeah,
Marching.
yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Another name, Walt Colburn.
Walt was our varsity football coach at that time, and I played under him, with the varsity Jamestown team, and Paul Arnold in junior high school. he said, I need a center. And I think I was like a third string guard or something, you know. And he said, I'm going to make you my center. I'd never done anything, you know, in that line. But he taught me how to snap the ball, you know, back. And back then we ran a single wing, you know. So you had to have a center to have an offense, you know.
Yeah.
So, so he taught me how to center the ball and for punts as well. And but yeah, that's how I became a center in junior high, and then I played with a JV club. And Walt, we only had 2 centers on the varsity team when I was a sophomore, and he had me dress for all the varsity games because if centers got hurt, he didn't have an offense, so he wanted a backup, and that's what I was, a backup. Yeah. But yeah, we had a good time. Good experience. Got in some of the away games and had a ball.
McCusker was on that team.
McCusker graduated a year ahead of me, and we used to scrimmage against him, of course, you know, down at Harrison Field. And Jim was really quick, and he used to do wind sprints with the ends and centers, you know, and he was faster than anybody. But he, yeah, every once in a while I'd get lucky, and I could always kind of smell out a pass play coming. And I remember one night down there, I saw the guy coming around the end, and I went and intercepted the ball and started to run with it, and Mac hit me. I think he buried me, but but yeah, he was a heck of a player.
Was he a big guy then, or just a?
He was a little over, you know, like maybe 215, maybe 215. I'm not even sure he was at maybe in that area, a little over 200, and but he was, you know, like a wedge. Yeah, very good. And when he hit you, you knew it. Yeah.
So he played offensive tackle.
Yeah.
And we went off to the University of Pittsburgh after that.
Yeah.
Did you guys at that time sort of keep track of him?
Oh yes, yeah. Mac, in fact, all through college and in his pro career, and I used to go to the pub after work and sit down with Jim, and he'd fix me a cocktail, and then we'd talk about those days.
Yeah.
Some of his experiences as a pro, and some of the people he played against, and the dirty guys and the guys that weren't so dirty, but they were very good. And you know, he had a lot of stories to tell.
Yeah, well, that's what a great connection. Raleigh Taft.
Raleigh was our high school basketball coach, and I was like, I think in my junior year, I was like a 6th man on a basketball team. 'Cause I could never score. I mean, you know, it was. He'd put me in when he needed some rebounds to feed the shooters. He'd say, Fulford, get in there, you know, and get me some rebounds, you know. So I'd go in and knock a couple people in the second row and everything, you know, just to get some rebounds and feed it out to Bob Eklund or George Parsons or Bob Winterburn or one of those people, and you know, I'd never see the ball again, of course. You know. But yeah, and then and junior year, I was like 7th man, I think, because we had Billy Burke and Brian Moynihan came up from the JV squad, and they were better than I was, and you know, but had a good time. You know, Raleigh was a stickler and pattern offense, and especially against the zone. But yeah, had a lot of good times.
So you mentioned the name Russ Dietrich a little bit earlier. Of course, your paths throughout your entire career has been part of Russ's as well.
Yes.
Give us your best, funniest story about Russ Dietrich. Give us something that we don't know about.
We were playing a doubleheader up in Canada when we played with Marla Rockwell was our sponsor. And we played an afternoon game in Guelph and a night game in Kitchener. And we were up in Kitchener, and Russ went up with the business manager or whatever of the Kitchener team. and he went up in a press box, and the guys feeding him a little Crown Royal on the side, and you know, and Russ, after the game, he had a lot of trouble getting out of the press box. And we didn't let him forget that for a while. It was
Never brought that one
No,
up.
that's
No,
one,
no.
you know, that is a new one. That is new.
Oh, now, was he sort of your manager? He was just a couple years older than you? How did that work?
Yes, I think when I started playing in the C League, after that 1 year when I had this, Russ was a manager of our team basically from that point all the way up through. I played with Carborundum 1 year when I was working down there, and in fact, no, I played with Marley Rockwell before that, and it was mainly Russ was working there at the time, and he ended up getting me a job there, and when I came back from playing baseball, the job that I had was filled, so I went to work at Carborundum, I think like for 15 months or something like that, and played with them, and Russ finally got me back on, you know, with his group, and we played. I think I even managed the team the last year or two, but I had a laugh because I say manage. I had Art Asquith in center field, George Parsons in left field, Tommy Sharp in right field, and I don't care who pitched. They could run it down. I mean, you know, nobody could hit anything past them. I mean, you know, they were so fast.
What was it like playing in that era with those teams? And you know, Greg pointed out that you have the pitching records and the batting averages of all the guys that were in the newspaper that Frank Hyde put in regularly. I mean, it had to be some incredible.
Oh,
baseball.
I think it was fantastic. They, like Lyle Parkhurst was managing the Art Metal team, and we had a lot of ex-pro players, Ted Wybernack, Walt Brown, you know, with the old St. Louis Browns. And I batted against him a couple of times, and he had one of the best curveballs I've ever seen in my life. You know, he was really good. And Ted, he would go in, you know, just like for a couple innings in relief for us, and he was great. And Tommy Hurst, he would just sit back and, you know, take a pitch and kind of judge how fast it was. And then he'd rip the next pitch to center or left or something. You know, he was a heck of a hitter. But he had some stories, too, about his pitching career, which ended when Paul Richards had him pitching up in Toronto, and he'd just gotten an appendectomy. You know, so he was favoring that, and he tore something in his arm, and that was the end of his pitching career. But yeah, it was. I mean, that league was so competitive, and you know, it had such great people. The old Steel Partitions group, Bobby Bender, and you know, and those guys. Roger Dubois played with them before he played with us, and. Ollie Strickland, Ernie's father, and Bobby Frito, Doc Rissell, you know, some of those people, they, you know, just great players and fantastic people.
But then you transitioned from, you know, when you were playing, then you got, you know, you're officiating, you're umpiring, you know, you're doing baseball.
Yes.
Basketball and football.
Yes, yeah.
Tell me what was the motivation for that, and because that became another career.
Yeah.
I mean, for decades.
I think probably Milt Lindstrom. I got to know he talked me into starting basketball officiating in 1959, and you know, I worked that first year. Didn't get, you know, I worked a lot of church league games, industrial league games, Taft league games, and the following fall, Lou Brown said, "Okay, now you got into basketball," and he said, "Now you got to start refereeing football." So that following fall, I started refereeing football, and that's how I ended up with 39 years officiating football and 40 years refereeing basketball. And but little by little, you know, I guess I had I'll say a knack for it, and a couple coaches gave me the opportunity to work early on. In fact, Art Asquith was coaching at Castiga Valley, and so he asked Lou Brown to send me up there for a JV game, and you know, and then eventually varsity games, and kind of worked into it.
I know a bunch of officials, and they all say the camaraderie developed among you guys.
Oh yeah,
is
yeah,
immense.
yeah.
So I
yeah.
imagine you'd have stories for weeks.
Oh yeah,
But do you
and
have
it would
one,
go on for weeks.
Do you have
yeah.
one for like that would be the first one you'd mention when you got together with your buddies to talk about for basketball, and then maybe for football that you know that you always, hey, remember when?
Oh boy, there's been several, but Wally Hucknall. I was working a Kenmore East game at Jamestown, and I'm field judge, and I'm on his sideline. But on this punt play, I was downfield.
Sorry.
On a punt play, I was downfield, and Kenmore East kid fielded the ball, took off to his right. Jamestown kid coming down, covering the punt. You know, he was coming in to make the tackle, and this Kenmore East kid came from the side and wiped him out. I mean, he just took him right out. And after that play, Wally on the sideline, he goes, Mr. Official, he said, my kid got clipped on that last play. I said, no, Coach. I said, he got killed, but he didn't get clipped. And he said, well, how do you know? He said, you didn't have your glasses on. And I said, no, and neither did you. And I was a lot closer than you were. That's some of the stuff that went on the sideline, you know, that no one else knew about. But it was, you know, it was I had a lot of good times.
Were there players that you remember, you know, as you're officiating both of those sports that really come to mind that you know? I know you're watching other things, but clearly you've seen some really good athletes.
Yeah, well, you know, like I remember one time down at the stadium, Doug Johnson was punting for Jamestown against Warren, and he was a low snap from center, and he kind of fumbled the ball, and he reached over and he picked it up, and he took one step and punted, you know. Well, the rule says if you're in punt formation, you're a punter until you become a runner. And he made no attempt to run the ball. He just, you know, got control of it, took one step and punted. Well, the kid from Warren came in and just wiped him out, you know. I mean, the ball was long gone. And I throw a flag for roughing the punter. And I can't think of the coach's name. He was there for years.
For Warren?
Yeah.
Toby Shea.
Toby Shea, thank you. Mm-hmm. And he comes down and we had a long conversation out, you know. I think I was working with Milt Lindstrom and Roger Mason and Gus Erickson. And they just stood back and they let me referee the game. I mean, you know, they told me before the game, you're going to referee tonight. I said, wait a minute, you know, this is a big game. You know, am I ready for this? But anyway, so Toby comes out and he, you know, made a big spectacle of arguing about it. He says, you're wrong, you're wrong. I said, Coach, if I'm wrong, I says, I'll admit, you know, I'll call you and tell you that I made the mistake. Mm-hmm. I said, but I'm looking at my fellow officials and they're not saying a word, so I know I'm right. Yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, that was one of the, but Doug was punting that night. And, but, you know, I've seen like Ronnie Seasted's son, or the center for Jamestown, and just so many really good players, because I've had probably 1 or 2 Jamestown games almost every year, you know, for a bunch of years. And I had them at Rich Stadium 2 or 3 times for playoff games. And I had Maple Grove and where they playing? Pine Valley, I think it was. Anyway, it was, but quite a few games at Rich. And I was lucky enough, they even honored me one time up there, Section 6. But I've had state semifinal games up in Rochester. I worked a final game in the Carrier Dome, Class C, one year, and then that was fun.
Yeah, sure.
Great game and good players. And had a girls basketball final and up above Albany one year, Queensland High School.
Queensbury?
Queensbury High School, yeah. And the girl that played in that game, the game that I had, she scored, I think it was 49 points.
Wow.
And the following day in the final game, she had 51 points. She ended up going to University of Virginia on a full ride. White girl, you know, very, very good. I mean, she put her head down, drove the ball like any pro would. I mean, you know, but there's good experiences there. In fact, Salamanca played, I think, the game before the game that I had, when they had a girls team up there.
Yeah, I think it was, well, one of your officiating colleagues, it would be her daughter, the Carroll girls?
Yes, right, yeah.
Kathy
yeah,
Carroll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie was at the game. I don't know if Pat was or not.
Yeah. But yeah, the Carroll.
Yeah.
The Carrolls were really good.
Yeah.
I know Pat was a.
Yeah, and one of them was on that team. Yeah.
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 Did you ever get pulled up to a college game?
Yes. For several years, I was in CBOA, trying to make it to bigger, better games.
Mm-hmm.
In this area, the officiating is kind of run by the bigger areas like Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, Erie. So when you're like in Jamestown, you don't get a lot of exposure on the better games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way they like it. They like you to work the Region 3 games, you know, the Division 3 games, the junior college games. And every time I went to Alfred State, when Ron Frederick was coaching,
Right.
every game I think I went there, ended up having to call a technical on Ron because he kept jabbering, you know, and I said, Ron, that's enough. You know, I'm not going to listen to it. You know, so you know, I ended up giving him a technical. Well, then he was quiet. You know, but of course they rate the officials. You know, they send that in to the assigner, and the assigner after 4 or 5 years. He said, I got to drop you back to JV level. I said, why? He said, because of your ratings. I said, what do you expect? I said, Dick, what do you expect? I said, you send me there 2 or 3 times a year. I end up calling technicals. I mean, I can't get a good rating. There's no way. But, yeah, it is what it is, yeah.
Golf, there's another thing that obviously is still a passion because you're still playing regularly. What about that? I mean, is that something you played as a young kid, or did you develop that later?
I think when I was in probably high school by then, and Bruce Bullock's parents belonged to Randolph, and I used to spend some time, you know, at his house, and they took me a couple of times golfing with them. The year after I had my knee operation, I caddied at Moonbrook, and I used to shag for Toby Lyons, and he would never pay you, but you know, but I would try to pay attention to what he was telling the people when he's giving lessons. They would go out Monday morning and play, and I would try some of those things. And, with the baseball swing, just, instead of here, it's here with a golf. I could hit the ball decently, Started out with a big old slice, but I got that tamed. And when I was 15, I won the Caddies tournament. I shot an 81 at Moonbrook.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was, I think I was 30 years old before I ever shot that again.
But you had a lot of success, though. I mean, after you were introduced to the game and worked on it, because you
Yes,
had a course record at Maplehurst. You won some amateur titles.
Yeah, I would say my claim to fame was played in the Western New York Amateur at Maplehurst one year, and played in the morning early and shot 70, even par. And in the afternoon, Danny O'Neill, Bob Gunnell, Roger Loop, these guys all teed off late, after I was done. And Bob Gunnell shot a 70. So like about 6 o'clock at night, we're having a playoff. And I've been sitting around all afternoon. And I three-putted the first hole, and we tied. We went to the second hole. And I kind of topped my second shot on that par 5. And, I had probably 160 yards to the green, and Bob Gunnell's about 20 yards from the green in 2. And I knocked it on the green and had about a 50-foot putt, And I hit it and left it about 15 feet short. I'm still away. Okay? And so I hit it and it goes in for the 5. Bob three-putted from like 12 feet. So I beat him. So I said, that's my claim to fame, is that I beat Bob Gunnell, and a playoff for that Western New York Amateur title.
Didn't you also have a 62 there and another time at Maplehurst?
Oh, no, was playing, I can't remember, what it was in, but one day I shot a 63. I had 9 birdies and 2 bogeys, and one of them was a 3-putt. But I was, at one time I was a 3 handicap at Maplehurst. Won the club championship that year, I think. And but yeah, golf is, to me, is a lifetime sport, but it's the most challenging sport I think that I've ever played.
Even more than, obviously you didn't have much trouble hitting the baseball.
No, I always, I was always lucky. Yeah, well, the ball's just sitting there. You gotta be able to hit it. Depends on how far, I suppose. But I've really loved golf, my whole life, and I still now, if they don't have tournaments, I play 6 days a week at South Hills. My wife tells me that I play a little too much, but.
Well, that obviously translated well with your son Brett, because he's quite a
yeah, he's been enthusiastic about golf since he was this high. I said when we were members at Jackson Valley, after we left Maplehurst, and Ray Ristow, the owner, let me bring him down there when he was 3.5 years old, and I give him a little cut-off 7-iron and on a ball, and he'd like an ant, like this here. But when he was 5, he loved to swing my golf clubs, and he was so little that, he didn't swing them like this. He swung them like a baseball bat. Mm-hmm. But his timing was so good that he could hit straight, And when he was 5, he lipped out on number 8, the par 3 down there. He lipped out for a hole-in-one. Yeah, when he was 5, and it's funny because he didn't make it. He 3-putted after that, I think. But the only hole-in-one he's ever had, as good as he is, was in our member guest tournament at South Hills. The old number 11, the par 3, with the green faces away from you. He had a hole-in-one there on a Friday in our member guest The only one he's ever had.
Of all the golf you play, I suspect that the member guest playing with Brett, probably the highlight of your golf
Oh,
year.
yeah. Well, that's the only reason I played the last 2 years. Now I'm so old that they let us guys over 75 play the red tees, forward tees, at South Hills. And, you know, we have a game, 12 to 20 guys, you know, almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And, but, yeah, and in the member guys, you have to play the blue tees. Well, I can't. I mean, I can't hit it that far anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I played the blue tees only because, you know, I play with him. I get a chance to play with him.
Mm-hmm.
And a year ago, he was 11 under par scratch for 3 days. He played very well.
Well, and I should remember this, but he played collegiately.
He played at Bowling Green State.
That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was not recruited. A friend of ours in Buffalo said, Jack, I think Brett could go to Bowling Green and play, you know, in their program. They don't give full scholarships for golf. They take 2 scholarships and break them up amongst the whole team. And so we went there for an interview, and you know, the coach says, well, yeah, you want come try out for the team. And that summer, after he graduated from high school, he won the New York State Junior Amateur up in Watertown. And then he got several letters, you know, from Arizona State even sent him a letter. I said, you're not going to Arizona State. I said, if you're not playing golf, you know, I can't come and get you every weekend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but he went there, and he led the team in scoring average 3 of the 4 years that he was there as a walk-on. And he set their course record his last round in his senior year in the conference tournament. Shot a 63, the par 72. Yeah. So as far as I know, that still stands, but I'm not sure.
And Brett would be how old now?
22nd of August, he'll be 46.
And I still remember when you were officiating. It was a football game at Sherman.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think he was helping run the sticks, or he was just following you
He was
on the sidelines, because I was covering the game.
I
He could have been.
I used to use him as a ball boy.
Oh, ball boy.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
He'd run the ball into
Yeah,
us.
yeah. Yeah, and he couldn't have been out of junior high school.
Yeah. He was my ball boy. One of the games I had at Rich Stadium
Is that right? Yeah.
was on a Saturday morning, and the Bills were working out before they went to play the Jets in the afternoon. They were flying out in the afternoon, and he was there, and it's a cool day, and he had his Dallas Cowboys jacket on. So he went out in the runway, and pretty soon he comes in, and we're dressing, and he said, Dad, hold my jacket, hold my jacket. He says, I said, what's the matter? Just hold my jacket. He said, and that's when Kelly and and all the good players were playing at that time. They all shook hands with him, coming off the field and everything. That was a big thrill for him.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that was a time it was good to get rid of your Cowboys jacket.
Yes. Yeah. He said, "Here, hold this."
Trust me, I was at 2 of those Super Bowls with
Yeah.
too many cool Cowboys. Jack, what a careers you've had. But as you kind of reflect here today, you're talking to Scott, Randy, and I, and you look at the state of athletics. In schools, high schools, their numbers are down, everything's down. Do you crave for the old days, or is this just a normal transition of life?
I think it's kind of normal. It becomes a game of dollars and cents. Everybody's on budgets, and they want to cut everything, even, and I think they should cut a lot of things before they cut teachers, but, it's just one of those things, the consolidation of schools and, like I say, budgets, and I don't think there's so many opportunities for kids today to start playing sports early that I think they lose a lot of the desire that we had when we were younger. You know, everything is organized for them, uniforms, fields, facilities, whatever, and you know, I think they just almost, a lot of them get kind of burned out by the time they get to junior high, high school age. And so the participation is not there. If they had the participation, I think Sports Booster would find money for them to play. But, you know, that's not happening. So.
Well, it's a real challenge. Did you see some of that beginning when you took over for Russ at head of the rec department, and of course within the Jamestown, that was such a huge part of my growing up.
Oh yes, yeah.
The rec leagues, the little leagues, everything you kind of sponsored. Did you see some of that beginning as you were?
It was part of it is a consolidation of talent. You know, you have a league with 24 teams in it. You know, a social league or something like that, slow pitch now, and the best player from this team said, "Why don't you come play with us?" You know, and now this team over here is not anywhere near what they were, so they say, "Well, a couple of guys go somewhere else," and pretty soon you only have, instead of 24 teams in the league, at 18, 16, and then pretty soon it's lower and lower. And that's what happened to our fast pitch league. The consolidation of players just got to be, you know, on 2 or 3 really good teams. And, you know, so you don't have the competition anymore. And we saw that. I was fortunate enough, Russ, when I first started with the department, he kind of gave me the recreation part of the department. And so I would do all the schedules and hold the organizational meetings, and I certainly enjoyed that the whole 25 years I was there. And but yeah, you could see it, you know, kind of going down. And now again, budgets. You know, the rec department isn't. I shouldn't say rec department anymore, but it's funded now by the New York State Division for Youth. And I mean, we used to have 5 people in our office, you know, doing all the paperwork and the organization and everything. Now they have 1 person. And they don't have time to spend with the organizational part of it. So, you know, that's gone downhill. We don't have any tournaments anymore. I mean, I used to spend 4 complete weekends out of the summer running softball tournaments. And everybody, I mean, the feedback I got, everybody loved it. The out-of-town teams loved coming here. Our facilities were great. And, you know, the people loved to come up and watch the games and have a pop or 2. But, yeah, it was, I mean, it was great. And it kept the interest up, and now they don't have that anymore.
Talk about fast pitch softball, because as a kid I played some of it, but I watched it principally, and certainly it was the Stravatos and the Caesar houses,
right?
And those tournaments you talked about, it was, I mean, those were huge events.
Oh yeah. Russ, I mean, Russ organized all that, you know, before I came on board, but. After I started running them, the interest was, he tried to schedule everything at Bergman, you know, and there's a limited number of fields. We didn't even have that, you know, 5 fields in, and so the games took a lot longer to go through the brackets and eliminate, you know, the teams. And when I started running it, I started scheduling at Jones and Gifford, you know, at more games at different sites, and getting through the brackets a little quicker. So we didn't have the 4 a.m. final game, you know,
remember
on a Monday morning,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, at Danielson, and yeah, we played them maybe 7 o'clock at night on a Sunday.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. But again, I'm not so sure that there wasn't more interest back in the middle of the night, you know, than there was when I got them over with a little quicker.
Was those draws during those tournaments, and I don't know, but the Tommy Irons, the Jim Adams acts, the Ron Fredericks, I mean, that was magic.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, there were people from Erie, Shifty Gears from Rochester, played here. A couple of guys from Cleveland that played with the Erie team. I mean, we had them from all over. We used to get teams from Clarksburg, West Virginia, come play in our slow pitch league or slow pitch tournament, and Cleveland, teams from Cleveland, and they loved it. I mean, they loved coming here, and I think they felt that they got a really honest break on the pairings. I mean, a lot of our local guys didn't like me because I would take a local team against an out-of-town team. Draw it out of a hat, but I put them on every other line so that, two teams coming in from Cleveland weren't playing each other in the first game, because that wasn't fair to them.
Okay.
And but the local teams, were not quite as good, and but they complained that I should have a local bracket so that they have a chance to advance to the second or third place in a tournament. And I didn't feel that it should be run that way, so I did it my way.
So what's the question we should be asking you, Jack? Since Kinberg and Peterson are going to be asking me questions, I hope they don't ask me this one. And what's the question we should have been asking?
Oh, I don't know. Sue and I just we celebrated last week our 59th anniversary.
Congratulations.
So, can you imagine her putting up with me that long?
Is that a question? Because then you may ask Cindy that at the same time.
Yeah, really. Yeah. No, I can't think of anything offhand, but no, it just it's been great living here, super area. It just a lot. I know everybody in town. It seems like, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. Well, you've been great for it, and on many fronts. When you think about that, Jack.
Thank you.
Yeah. As an athlete, as a rec director, and a supporter. I mean, you on many fronts. So, we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is Ed here to turn this off? Or?
Thank you.
So what's next, Jack? I'll play golf. Trying to get a couple of holes in.
No, I played earlier. I played in that Thursday old guys league, I call it.
Yeah.
How'd you shoot today?
Lousy.
But they encourage you to go out tomorrow then.
Well, I'll be there tomorrow, 12:30.
That's the thing about golf.
12:30. Then it's another day. Yeah.
Cool. We're gonna take that mic off you, Jack. 'Cause
Okay.
I was just reading about the person who was on like 60 Minutes, one of those exposés.
Uh-huh.
And
That's where you get the good stuff.
it's the expose, and this guy had allegedly killed his wife. He says, no way, in fact, I'll even take it in. So the guy came and said, I'll talk to him, and he was very forthright, here's why I did not kill my wife. He goes, you can't prove anything. So they took a break. And he had a lavalier mic, which was kind of